Let's go. Modern Relics podcast. I'm Angel. He's Lucky. It is damn near Christmas time. We're back. We're live.
Close.
We missed a week. That's your fault. You, the listener, and you, the viewer, drove us away for an entire week. I'm holding you
We were mad at
exclusively
you.
responsible for this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Modern
we were
Relics
definitely mad
podcast.
at you, and this was your punishment.
That's it. No,
This was the coal in your stocking, your proverbial coal in your stocking.
we were both very sick I was very sick last week.
I was too.
My work schedule did not help out as far as like just amount of raw hours spent up and at 'em with like, it's weird for me. I don't know if you're the same way, but like even mundane tasks, physically and mentally are also extra draining. But when you really have to hone in mentally on something like, you know, problem solving or creative writing or, you know, like task oriented things, even if it's not physically demanding, it still just kicks your ass like even harder. It helps.
It double drains the battery.
Yeah, that's been me, man. And I'm not fully out of the woods just yet, but last week was brutal for me.
Yeah.
I have
My head was a faucet the entire week. Like it was, and I'm still got the lingering cough a little bit. But
Yeah.
hopefully I'll catch the mute button if I have to while we're going this time.
yeah.
So
this is a pretty gruesome story. So as I tell it, if you're grossed out easily, I would skip ahead maybe a minute of time. The night you text me last Tuesday when we were supposed to go live, and you're like, "Hey, not feeling well." I was like, "I'm not feeling well either. Let's just call it a day." About 30 minutes after that, I decided to cook some dinner because I was like, you know what? I got to eat, and then I'm going to go to bed, immediately lay down and go to bed. And I have all these little potatoes that I have to cook up before they spoil. So I'm like, I'm going to slice them really, really thin. And then I'm just going to put a thin layer of oil in a pan, and I'll fry these into chips, and I'll eat them with this piece of corned beef that I've had. The corned beef is resting. Everything's ready to go. I'm stirring these around with a fork in this thin layer of hot oil, just pushing it around. Because I'm not feeling well, I don't think my brain is 100% put together. So I turn around, I get some stuff. I think I put a cup out and moved a plate and something else. And then I grab my tasting fork to try a little piece of the corned beef that I had on the counter while the potatoes are still sizzling. And I insert the fork that I was using to stir the potatoes with into my mouth to eat this piece of meat or to try it out. And it was at least 800 to 900 degrees of hot metal.
Oh my God. Oh.
And so the whole inside of my cheek, like the squishy part, I literally melted the top and bottom of my mouth together. And like when I pulled the fork out and I had my mouth closed and I just was like, So I knew it was bad. And then I couldn't open my mouth, and this is gross, so I recommend you skip forward. But I was like, I walked right into the bathroom. I'm like, it must be done. And I grabbed a pocket knife and reopened my mouth from the inside out. And it like separated again, where like then the real burning started because it was still, my mouth was still cooking with hot metal in it. Yeah.
Oh.
And so it was fucking horrible. And I was like, yep. Like I wasn't like, you know, screaming and yelling and let's call the doctor or anything. I just kind of stoically stood there like, well, that's a pretty fucking idiot move that I won't do again. So for the whole week, I've had these burned pucks of skin on the inside of the top and bottom of the left side of my mouth. And it's much better now because thankfully mouth injuries tend to heal really quickly. But
yeah, they do. But dude, that
just the sound it made, the smell, and then the intense, like all your nerve endings are dead feeling was like wildly hot and then really cold and then really, really hot. And I've never melted my mouth closed. So that's how my week was last week. And I'm like, well, thankfully we didn't do the pod because I wasn't talking much on Tuesday night or Wednesday. So
well, oddly
that
enough,
was fucking horrible.
At least if you ever encounter a tribe of cannibals, you can tell them how you taste.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, I was just like, what a dumb move. Because I look back at the counter, I had both my forks right there, and I was like, yeah, that was dumb. I
Ugh.
kind of had that one coming because it didn't like sear when I cut the little piece off either. And it was, you just, I'll try that. And I like put it in the corner of my mouth and slid sideways. And it just like my whole mouth collapsed in on itself. And I was like, oh no. It was really bad. So
Man,
apologies.
well.
That was gruesome. You guys are welcome to tune back in now. But I've never done anything like that to that degree before, but it happened and I'm much better now. Here we are. So that's kind of how
Wow,
last week
okay.
went for me, dude. Just it's like I'm
Mine
not
was
going
less-
anywhere.
Mine was less traumatic, but
Yeah.
I was just not feeling good. I wasn't cauterizing the inside of
Yeah.
my mouth, and then
Yeah, I was less worried
But-
about my head congestion after burning the shit out of my mouth with a
yeah.
molten hot fork, but
The self-inflicted stepdad move where your leg hurts and then he punches you in the arm.
yeah.
He goes, "Wow, now you're not thinking about
Not
your
even
leg
thinking
anymore."
about your leg, are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got to heal up a little bit. This next week I'm traveling.
Yes, you are. You're going to the great state of we hate Washington.
Yeah, it's true. I can't think of a better place to spend the holidays than I can think of a million better places to go. So I got to fly. This is fun. I got to fly into Seattle. I have to go back to the mothership, the headquarters of where I work over at Redacted. I have to be there in person on Monday only. Then Tuesday, I have an appointment that I'm taking care of for some Christmas stuff Wednesday morning in Olympia, and then driving a rental car across Snoqualmie Pass to meet up with my pop over in the Tri-Cities the same day on Wednesday, and then stay the night there. Thursday, go back to Seattle to deliver the rental car back and catch a flight home on Friday. And then, so nothing can go wrong. No weather, nothing can go wrong.
Yeah, you've given yourself no wiggle room on this at
Well,
all.
I gave myself the most amount of wiggle room where it counts, which is if there's flights delayed, I have an entire weekend to figure out how to get home. Like, I'm leaving Friday to come back here, hopefully before the crazy amount of like weekend travelers are trying to fly home Saturday or Sunday. So
True.
that's what I'm hopeful for. It's only, like I said, a 2.5 hour flight, but it's the holidays and it's the Seattle Tacoma airport. So I don't hold out too much hope. So I got that going on. And then I did take time off. So I was supposed to have, what's that?
I said we'll bumper this conversation with my movie review at the end. That will
fair enough. Yeah, I know what's coming here. So yeah, I've got that going on, and then I took a couple of days off after New Year's Day because I was expecting some family, but the plane tickets are too much for them to contend with coming down here for New Year's. So I'm just gonna have a lot of time to like R&R the week after Christmas. So I will definitely not be potting next week on Christmas Eve because I'll be in a car driving somewhere. Right. But I should have a wealth of time to do it going into the new year and stuff, and probably bring up some segments around what the next year looks like and maybe a look back and stuff. So it should be fun, but it's going to be nuts next week for sure.
What is that Tuesday? Does that Tuesday fall on New Year's Eve?
Yeah, it does. Yep. So if Christmas Day is Wednesday, New Year's Day must then also be Wednesday. That's usually how that falls on the week. So let me look on a calendar real quick.
Yeah,
indeed it is. Yeah, Christmas Day, Wednesday. The following Wednesday is New Year's Day. So Christmas Eve is next Tuesday, guys. And then after that, it is December 31. So
it looks like
New Year's Eve. We could do a New Year's Eve pod unless you all have plans.
I do not.
Yeah.
Oliver's birthday is the day before. But New Year's Eve, looks like I scratched it off the calendar so I could have the day off.
Nice.
So yeah, we could totally do that. I have no problem.
Yeah. So we'll find something fun to do. I'll probably go hang out with some of my local friends for tidings of New Year, but I don't think it's going to be a late night for me for sure. I'm old now. My idea of fun consists of staying up past 10 maybe once in a while, drinking a stiff Capri Sun and seeing what happens. You know what I mean?
I think you probably burn more of the midnight wax, the candle wax, while I'm in town than you do while I'm not.
You know,
Like, I think
so
you would.
yeah, kind of, but like I don't sleep well generally. I'm usually up late. Like, and for me, late is not late like it is for you. It's usually like between 11 and 12:30. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
I gotta go to bed because I gotta get at least 5.5 hours of sleep before I wake up at 7 o'clock the next day, 6:30 or 7 every day. So I am up
Yeah.
late. It's just, going into the 1, 2, 3 in the morning hours is just, very rare. Like I just,
Yeah.
but when you're here, it's always a good time because we usually have really good conversations, most of which we probably should record because
I know.
I
I always
like,
think that.
yeah, like fuck, we should have roll a camera or something. But yeah, it's gonna be nuts. Hopefully, it's not as nuts for you. Christmas week, you guys have just chill plans. I know you have some. You have some traditions you uphold. You got hot wings to eat on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve, right? And then usually
That is
those
true.
that happens at home, and then probably guests, no guests, guys just chilling.
Really, no. If I'm going to be honest, I don't know what our Christmas looks like this year. It'll probably be fairly mellow Christmas morning with just us. I don't know what it looks like. I know my mom will probably come over. We'll probably see Aaron's mom at some point in time. As far as other aunts, uncles, siblings, all of that, or friends or anything, we haven't really even discussed it for the most part. Like, so I have no idea. Um,
Trying to getting in
my
that Yuletide
mother-in-law,
spirit's been tough this year, man. Like I haven't
yeah,
planned for nothing. I'm just like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Whatever's gonna happen
yeah.
is gonna freaking happen, and I'm here for it. Yeah,
My upstairs right now, my whole living room and all the way down into the front doorstep and the out front and everything. It is solid Christmas, and
nice.
that is Kate and Aaron 100%. But it looks great upstairs. Um, the shop looks great, so I'm kind of, and I've been
I saw
force
some of that on
feeding.
Instagram too. You guys, a little
Yeah,
decoration. That was cool.
I've been force feeding Christmas movies on loop at the shop to all the artists. So
Nice.
I was like, here's your list of movies, play these
Sure.
and just don't veer from them. And they went, oh, okay. And so rarely do I make any demands on the entertainment or media that goes through that shop. But I was like, no, we're gonna do Christmas movies for the next couple of weeks, and you're gonna just accept it. So um but yeah, we just actually celebrated um the other night, 2 nights ago. My mother-in-law came over. We made her dinner for her 70th birthday.
Wow.
So old Joyce is now 70 and still as mean and feisty as ever.
Nice.
So, yep. But outside of that, yeah, it's just been kind of like taking the hits as they come, and we're not really. It's been very mellow as far as like planning stuff out. Like I wanted to go to the live nativity thing. I don't know if we're gonna have time to do that. I got invited to go do one of the Christmas boat tours on the lake by one of my
Yeah.
clients. Haven't been able to, like, can't seem to plan it. And it has more to do, I think, with the fact that both my kids are both now working age.
Yeah.
So between their Oliver's hockey and then both of their jobs, uh it's really hard to get us all on the same
Yeah, because
schedule.
now you're
So,
navigating, including your wife, 4 different independent schedules for an event.
right.
Like it, yeah.
But now I think it's just gather on the morning of Christmas and hope for the best.
Yeah, I
So,
wonder what I'm going to be like at 70. Speaking of like a happy 70th birthday, I'm like, I can feel myself caring less and less about certain things as I age. You know what I mean? Where like the social contract means less and less every time I look at it. Like, I didn't sign this, did I? Like, so I'm trying to figure out, am I going to be like full crotchety? I try to be a very thoughtful man when it comes to like trying to digest a few things before just irrationally coming up with a take or a reaction, which is what my nature traditionally has always been. So I can see that mellowing out a little bit, but I don't know if I'm going to be full get off my lawn at 70 or not. I'm kind of hopeful that I am to some degree, but I don't know. I don't
I'm
know.
well on my way.
Yeah.
I'm well on my way. My kids already call me that. I'm the get off my lawn dad. So, but, and I'm accepting that role wholeheartedly. Like
Yeah.
you know,
Like I'm
there's
embracing all of this.
absolutely
Yeah.
like there's three things that I want, and I want like I'm gonna be the crotchety old man, but I do want a big white wizard beard.
Sure.
And then also I want to be a really awesome grandpa.
Mhm.
Those are the three. Those are the chapters that I'm looking forward to.
How is your phrase "you shall not pass"? Have you been working on that, like in conjunction with this beard effort, or
in the mirror in the mornings when I get up? Yeah,
you give them one or two in the morning in the mirror and just?
it's got some work. It's
Yeah.
got some work. I am by no means Gandalfian yet, but I'm working on it. Like,
Someone
I still got some
criticizes
years.
it, you're like, oh, he's just clearing his throat. Like you haven't
Yeah.
seen shit yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's fantastic.
I do have a booming dad voice. So like
Yeah.
when I definitely can stop a room with a hey, you know,
Yeah.
like when it's at its peak and I'm
Mhm.
pissed. Like, man, I did it at the tattoo shop last year when like two of the dudes were about ready to like go at it.
Mhm.
And I just got up from my chair because I was just like drawing or something. I got up from my chair and I walked around the corner to where they were at. And I was just like, hey, and they both like froze and just stopped. And these are like 50-year-old men.
Yeah.
And they just stopped and stared at me. I was like, knock it off. And they went, okay. And they both just like went to their other corners. I was like, oh, it works on more than just children. That's perfect. I got a good one. So
that's great. Yeah, they'll still need to find a way to take you seriously with a pointy hat and a beard, but
yeah. But you
just got to work up to it. I think that's all it is.
I think much like Gandalf, you spent years building respect.
Yes.
That allows you to wear whatever you want once you get to that point. They're like, oh, he could wear a clown costume. That dude's still scary. You know, like
maybe more so with the clown costume.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot going on, dude. We've got a whole week to go back in time and catch up on, and I think it starts with what apparently is kind of still live on YouTube in some news circles. Drones have been spotted flying in and around New Jersey and other parts of the eastern seaboard. What's your take on this? Because some of the stuff that I've heard is like, well, it's the current government administration. There's nothing to fear here, which is instantly you can throw that in the garbage.
Right.
Like you're up to something. There's no trust. I mean, nothing to fear, nothing to see here is not what you'd expect. It's what you'd expect to hear. It's not what you want to hear. That said, the other pieces of information I keep hearing is they're like, well, we don't quite know. It doesn't hit. I'm like, okay, horseshit. If I fly a DJI drone that I buy from Best Buy, they can see it on radar. Like the FAA knows I'm in the air, and my handset tells me when commercial traffic is above me. So this is a two-way handshake.
Yeah.
Like I don't buy that for a second, but I have also seen some really irresponsible people taking shots in a urban environment at these drones in the air. It's like, hey bud, those bullets got to come down at some point. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
So people are just shooting at these things. Some have been seen flying in formation. Some have been seen flying directly into the Atlantic Ocean. Others are just abound. What are you hearing about all these drones, and like what do you surmise is happening with this action here?
Well, first and foremost, you're correct. I do not believe that the government doesn't know what they are, or does it like they're shrugging and like we haven't quite figured it out is a load of hooey, and we all know it. The entirety of the country knows that you know exactly what they are. which then tells you, like, because there's no doubt in my mind that they know what they are. I mean, like you just said,
I,
you can't fly a Radio Shack one
yeah,
or a Best Buy one without them knowing
fucking
exactly
shout
what
out
you have,
Radio Shack. Yeah.
right?
No,
Um,
they have to be American in nature as well. I mean, did we not scramble jets for the weather balloon fiasco like 3 years ago? I mean, I don't think these are sent from a nearby mothership from Iran or
Iran,
something. Like, yeah, I don't.
yeah, no, I don't think they're foreign influence. I think that um, they're not aliens. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
And I didn't
I
grab my
don't.
tinfoil hat, but we can tighten that down for a second.
They're not. I don't believe that they're foreign adversaries unless they were allowed in here,
Yeah,
and that's the only option. A foreign adversary of any kind, whether it be reconnaissance or otherwise, would not be able to breach our airspace
correct.
without our government knowing and being all over it, on top of it immediately.
Yeah,
There's just no possible way. So if it is foreign, whatever the case may be, then they were allowed in here for whatever the case may be. And then that means the government knows exactly why they're here. There is no other situation that it could be. It's either the world's uh, most historical level of incompetence by a government ever
yeah.
to, or they know and they're lying about it. I'm going with option B.
I'm going with
Um,
option B as well.
Yeah, and so that's the only thing it could be. Now the amount of people shooting at them, well, I wouldn't mind in rural areas, but if you're in urban settings, that's craziness. And I saw a video of this older guy who was like, "Yeah, I shot at one," and they
Yeah,
arrested him,
yeah.
and he was laughing and he was good natured about it because he goes, "Yeah, I shot at it." So, but you know, at what point see the people shooting at them to me is still the at the hands of the government due to the fact that they have kept everyone in the dark. They are soliciting fear of these things because they are like, we don't know.
Yeah,
So at this point the general populace is now going, well, if you're not going to give us direction,
we're going to invent one. Yeah,
we're going to
and
handle it,
here comes the tinfoil, you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
And so they're shooting them out, and I can't blame them for it. Do I think that that's the responsible thing to do? No, but when given no direction or any information at all, when it has been asked over and over again of their local governments, their local police, and their federal government, hey, we're obviously witnessing a bunch of stuff that shouldn't be there,
hmm,
that's there, and it is scary. So please fill us in on what it is.
hmm.
And they're like, we don't know. And they're like, so what should we do about it? And they're like, we don't know. So they're like, cool, we're going to shoot them out of the sky.
Right.
And then, or what? Like, what is the other options that these people have? So
It's
now that being said, do I think that because, we've got a bunch of people in this area that have now taken to looking to the skies for drone activity.
yeah,
And, we keep hearing, through our kind of, our channels that people are like, oh, I saw a bunch above Hayden, or I saw a bunch
yeah.
above, I don't think that's happening.
This is the
I don't
placebo effect as well.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah, like you
I
want
think that
to see one because it's, top
here's the
of
thing.
mind.
I don't care if they're foreign. I don't care if they're domestic. I don't care if they're a secret government agency. I don't care if it's aliens. It does not matter. Any one of those scenarios would have zero interest in North Idaho
100%.
to do drone activity. Do they have interest over military bases and Trump's golf course and seaports
Definitely.
over in the Jersey area? Absolutely. So it makes sense when they're in those areas. It does not make sense. So I don't want anybody else in the rural areas start panicking because they see a drone in the sky and it's actually your neighbor because you never looked up before, but now you're really hyper focused. It's like when you get a particular car and
All you see is that car around.
all you see that car everywhere. It's that same mentality.
Yeah.
And so what I would love to do is to let everyone know, hey, chill out, calm down. The robots aren't here to replace you yet.
Not
And they're
not until
drone.
we get something substantive that suggests otherwise. I'm with you because, you know, as a guy that flies recreational drones, little ones, you know, to film cool stuff and scenery from new angles and shit. Like, I not as much down here as I did in Washington, but I would routinely run into people in, like, I know where I'm allowed to fly. I have to look at it on a radar. If I'm in a place I'm not supposed to be, I have to pull a lank permit for it. I have registration against the transcoder in there that has my name and information on it. Like, I have to be responsible, you know?
Yeah.
So I know the
Absolutely.
rules. And so when people come up to me because it's wrought with housing around where I'm flying over on the beach, for example, and they scream and yell about, you know, oh, you can't film me here and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, take that shit out of the sky. I don't want people snooping and stuff. I normally just take it down, show them like, hey, man, I'm deleting whatever footage to put your mind at ease, but I know the rules and you're wrong. Number one, I can
Yeah.
fly here all the fuck I want. Number two, I can film you without your consent in this state, by the way,
Yep.
if I so choose. And it's just not worth it because guess what? This is the only place I can fly, and you're going to see me out here again. So if you have a problem with it, I'm just going to yield and be like, whatever. It's not that important to me. I'm not filming a movie. I'm not on a deadline. You know, like one guy that was just being an errant asshole, I just kind of blew him off like, all right, dude, go call it in then. Like, whatever. You know, I don't care. And I kept the footage because I wasn't even filming this guy. I was filming ferry boats going in and out of Elliott Bay. But yeah, like more often than not, like the person that looks to avoid that level of confrontation will continue to have a better, happier, longer life as a drone pilot. But I realize not everyone's wired that way, and a lot more people, like I've seen people fly drones and then they put their shit on YouTube, which is really dumb, where they're flying it like into a stadium full of people during an NFL game, where like the NFL game is like put on hold and they pull everybody on the sidelines and they wait for this to stop happening and shit. And it's just like, you're going to get fined so much money by the FAA. Why would you put this on the internet? So,
Right.
yeah, but I was
only other
mostly
thing-
worried about the people shooting at them because a lot of it was like in urban areas and they're just taking pot shots in the air, like
Well, and they're
reckless
not little
disregard.
guys.
Yeah.
They're not little drones.
No,
These
they're
things
big
are-
drones, but you're accountable
They're-
for the shots you're putting in the air, sir, and you're like hammering the sky with 5.56 rounds.
Yeah.
You know, in an
With-
urban
with-
area, like who the fuck knows where those are coming down over there? You know, a
Right,
mile
and
away.
that-
But
And that dummy had tracer rounds too.
Yeah, I
a
saw
video
that.
Where, yeah.
those are fun to
Um,
shoot. Have you shot those before?
Yeah.
Red
yeah,
caps, those are fun. Yeah.
The new one of the New Jersey mayors though is suggesting that because some of these drones have been described as the size of like SUVs.
Yeah.
And so these aren't little.
No, they're fixed wing big
yeah.
drones. Yeah.
And that they are hunting. A New Jersey mayor suggests drones may be hunting for missing radioactive material as Biden administration stays silent. Now, this is the first I've heard of this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they would be like, what radioactive material and what they're searching it for, like how did it get lost, all of that stuff. But why would you need literally somewhere in the realm of 600 plus drones to find it?
Well, a couple reasons. One, I don't think they have old school Geiger counters on them and they're just honing in. I think they're looking for something or someone with extreme prejudice and intent, if that's the case. And if it is the case, the bigger question than why is the government being like, we don't know about this, is what exactly went missing? Like that seems to garner that level of response, maybe a little more worrisome than, oh, there's a reactor leak and some missing, I don't even know what. Like, where do they refine plutonium or uranium close to New Jersey? Like, I think there's a nuclear plant in one of the Carolinas. There might be one over in Jersey or Pennsylvania, perhaps, but like, seems it would be relatively important to garner that kind of response. So, like, I'd be way more concerned with what the hell's loose in New Jersey than what's overhead looking for it at this point. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, with that type and that volume of response.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's something out of a James Bond film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you know, oh, we've got the eye in the sky tracking them. Like, well, you have a lot of eyes in the sky, dude. What
the heightened sense of general paranoia that is covering and blanketing our American society, you would think that launching a bunch of unarmed or unmanned vehicles into the sky, it's got to be like they had to have known that they were going to that people were going to see them. I mean, that goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew questions were going to come up that they would have to just go, I don't know. The intentionality of that type of operation typically is what is known as a psyop. They want people to see them. They want people to freak out. They want people to question. They want to elicit a reaction. They want to find out why these people, or like how the general populace would react if they were being invaded by flying drones.
100%,
right? Like,
because we have technology in the satellite section that can read the date off of a dime on a park bench in Central Park. Like, if they don't want you to know they're watching, you're probably not going to know they're watching. So yeah, this is clearly.
And these drones can fly above like visible airspace.
Yes.
So
I mean, that was the number one tool used in strike assets in the global war against terror for 20 fucking years in the Middle East just now. Like, yeah, they absolutely.
So why are they just dipping around above people's houses?
Right.
So this is obviously meant to be seen by the general population. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. Otherwise, I mean, they have the capability and they have the history of making sure these things aren't seen. So the fact that they are seen means that they are either meant to be seen or they don't care that they're seen.
Right.
So it's one or the other. So let's and then to have the entirety of the federal government, state government, and down into county and city go, we don't know. We don't know what they are.
Right.
But we're not really worried about it either. We're not going to do anything about it. There's something going on with these things that is not being said, but it's intentional for the population to see it. They want the population to see it.
I think what pisses me off is that not only are we never going to know, but we are expected to, and we will. I promise you, with everything I own and every fiber of my being, we will stop talking about it in a week or two. We'll just forget about it. Just like everything else that warrants discussion and uncovering and like deeper thought and like, hey man, this
in a year we'll be like
completely unethical. What the fuck is going on here? And we just fucking pass it by. Like,
like the balloons or like the murder hornets or like any of the things that like gets brought into the public sphere, and then all of a sudden within a week of our news cycle, it is literally.
Hey, Cynthia. Yeah, it's just here today, gone tomorrow. That's kind of how it goes. So that's what pisses me off the most is like we're not ever really gonna know. But
I've seen talk of Project Bluebeam. Now, how that equates to it, I don't know, but I have seen people chattering around that it is somehow related to Project Bluebeam, that they're setting up like nets so that they could bring in or usher in Project Bluebeam. And this is all obviously the conspiratorial area of this, but that Project Bluebeam is going to get set up in this way, and then we'll all forget about it in a couple of weeks, but they'll all kind of just be there, and then they have it all. It was like a test run, so that they can usher in the ultimate alien contact kind of scenario off the eastern seaboard right there.
I've heard that too, and then it was equated to, well, remember when they took out all the cell phones just a couple of years ago as a trial run, and then suddenly everyone's phone had the COVID app on it, the tracking app immediately after that, once the emergency system went down and back up and nobody could use their cell phones for a while. And I was like, yeah, but as a technologist, I do know what happened with that. And this is not in the same ballpark, but there's plenty of folks that are just running straight with that.
Oh yeah.
Like,
but that is
like,
also the fault of the federal government for not being
not telling us what the hell's going on with all these
answers. Yeah, they're breeding that kind of response, and that's unfortunately.
Yeah, whoever's pulling the puppet strings, hats off to you. Round of applause.
Yeah.
You are crushing Americans' faith in each other and our government and all the institutions. You're doing a brilliant job. Nobody trusts anybody. Everything's a fucking conspiracy theory because all they have to do is show you some shit and then turn up both their palms and be like, I don't know. And then they just don't talk about it and everyone gets nuts. And it just, I mean, I've never had a situation like this happen more in my life than it has happened in the last 35 or 40 months. You know what I mean? Like everything is fucking crazy. I mean, I'm still have foggy enough brain not to go through the whole thing, but like there are so many examples from alien sightings to, the weather balloons to like crazy shit going on with like government involvement and stuff that may or may not be with the Epstein stuff. And then you got Diddy behind that and all this is continuing to unfold. And like, it's nuts. And no one's putting anything to bed. They just keep putting lids on it. That's it. So yeah, drones are out there. I recommend you not shoot at them, especially in an urban environment. Like you could end up striking a neighbor. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's a trap. They want you to do that anyway.
Yeah. So, and speaking of shooting at shit,
hold on.
Go ahead.
Real fast before you transition. I found a new button here on Discord that I'd never seen before.
Oh yeah. What's the button?
It's little sound effects like.
Oh yeah, their little soundboard in there. Yeah, push some stuff.
I just did a little quack.
You did.
Did you see that?
No, it's coming through.
Oh.
Yeah. A little applause.
Clap?
That's true. That happens.
Oh, a little sad horn.
Mm-hmm. That's great. You've got one too. Now I've pre-programmed all mine, so if you hear me excitedly be like bruh. I mean I've got all that on tap. We are showmen at the end of the day.
Okay.
And that was a perfect sound effect for a bland statement. I love it.
There's an air horn too, but I hate that air horn.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
It's there.
I found a new button. And when a guy like me finds a new button, I gotta press it.
You gotta push it. I was gonna say, sorry. No, it's fine. It's totally fine. Speaking of the shooting shit, the UHC CEO was killed.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
I watched that video, as many of you listening to this or watching us has probably seen already. And the things that the media chose to focus on was not unexpected, but horribly off base with what should be reported on. Nevertheless, my first instinct when I caught wind of that, and I think I sent it to some coworkers, my first response, and you, I think as well, was, oh, well, that was a hit.
Yeah.
100% that was a hit. And then we have splintered off now that it's had a week to bake in people's mind into so many conspiratorial directions from, well, this CEO is about to testify in Congress against Nancy Pelosi for some shit. And it's like, actually, no, that's not at all how that was going to play out. But, I made some jokes. Well, the Clintons are at it again. Like people are just getting offed. Everyone focused on the firearm. Is this one of those weird single shot James Bond guns with the rubber, inserts for the silencers in them because it sure looks like it. No, it wasn't. And you could tell by the way he tried to rack the slide. That's not how you operate that firearm. That was just somebody that didn't test out a silencer that wasn't optimized for the pistol that he was using, which appears...
It was probably between the silencer and he was probably using subsonic rounds in that. And it
didn't have enough
didn't
to cycle the action, and it was likely just a Glock or something else, right? Like, we're not... Grainy footage isn't going to tell us. What did concern me is it was obviously a hit. The guy like knew what he was doing, walked up right behind him at the right time. It was odd that it was in perfect frame of the security camera, because a professional would at least know where those are at long before the hit takes place, especially if you're scouting for that things. And I know, not because I'm a hitman, because I've seen fucking spy movies. In fact, I've seen all the fucking spy movies. That's exactly what you look for.
Especially if you're doing a scout job, that you had to know, like a kid his age had to know that that guy's pattern of life, where he was going to be at what time. First of all, he had to know who he was.
Right.
Like, how does a kid his age know who the CEO? I didn't know that.
Right.
Like,
well, here's where I'd split hairs with you. If he was good enough to run a target package on this guy and understand his pattern of life, he'd have been damn good enough to know not to shoot him in front of a fucking camera. Like, if that's your only target of opportunity, maybe you're going to blow it. But, like, I don't know about that. I definitely think he was put up to it. Because, you know, que sera. But the thing that kills me the most in that, I assume by now you've seen the video too, is there's a woman in frame that's standing by the door that just doesn't do shit. And he puts like 3 rounds in him, you know, on at least the media leaks that I've seen. And she just kind of stood there. I was just like, that's fucking weird. Like, maybe she paralyzed in fear, guy leaves, and then she goes in. But do you think it's the guy they picked up for it? Do you think that's the same guy? Do you think they're just crucifying this one dude because this is how they're going to put a lid on this one? Or like, talk me through that. I believe it was a hit. I don't understand the intent or who else may be involved, but it was obvious. An amateur guy walked up and just fucking capped this dude and didn't understand the weapons platform that he was using well enough to know that it was going to have cycling problems, but he was good enough with a gun to know how to cycle it and keep shooting. So
and then immediately get on a bike and disappear.
Yep.
And then go 3 states away in the same jacket with the same backpack, sit down in a McDonald's with the murder weapon, a manifesto, and his itinerary, and basically every bit of evidence he could possibly need. What, like 3 days later, still with all the same stuff? Like,
not possible.
No, not possible. And you look into the background of this kid. They're trying to say something to the effect that it was done because, I mean, he was rich. So any medical, like, he was never denied a medical thing. So what was the vendetta? What was the motive? He apparently had a back injury and he disappeared for a while, but then he popped up and did this. But the back injury somehow made him impotent. He couldn't couldn't have sex because of a nerve thing, right? And so he blamed this CEO somehow for that.
It doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. But also, there's videos popping up of him skateboarding and doing kickflips and jumping over a fence the day before the hit.
Right.
There's so his back injury wasn't so bad that he wasn't physically capable. And then he's flirting with the girl at a Starbucks. Also, we all saw him from here up. We saw eyebrows and eyes. Right. And then maybe like a little bit of his face, like from underneath a hood, but the girl at the McDonald's seemed to like recognize him enough to call the police. None of this makes sense.
This is crazy. Like, and all this had to be a Station 6, and they're like trying to rake these guys over the coals. And it's like, it absolutely was not a Station 6 firearm at all.
No.
Like, this was a regular semi-automatic pistol. Could have been an M&P.
He had the firearm. Yeah, he had the firearm on him in McDonald's, so they know what firearm he used.
So this is a clear-cut case of this is the guy we want to take the fall for all this stuff, and the circumstantial evidence is now overwhelming, kind of thing. But to your point, like what what are they driving for? You can't have gun control in New York State because it's already the worst it's ever. Like, they've already got all that. It's going to do nothing. And that argument is dead. And it's going to just continue to be cyclical. Are they going to now have new initiatives that say facial recognition and access to network wide cameras and CCTVs are now mandatory in all these areas? Like, this is going to open the door for all kinds of please control the US population even harder types of like bills that they're going to want to pass and all that stuff. But like, what's the point of this other than to detract from the fact that this guy was shot and killed for reasons that remain unclear, and we're going to basically just pin it on this dude, presumably. I mean, maybe he is that stupid, but I don't see it at all. Like, I don't see.
No, it
That's
doesn't make any sense.
Wildly dumb.
And the manifesto apparently was like a page long, and it was chock full of spelling errors, and it sounded really stupid, and he didn't really give a motive as to why he did what he did. Apparently it was poorly written, and I don't know. I don't think he did it. I think that there's something else going on here. Once again, tinfoil hatting.
Yeah, I would tinfoil hat this one.
But he didn't do this. Like, there's no way that this kid did what we saw on video. And I think that we are being distracted by him, by the whole scenario. Something else is going on that involved that CEO that we are not looking at now.
Yeah.
Because of it. So
I think it probably has to do with politics or money or both. Right. Because there's a lot of sudden loose ends being tied up with this administration. It seems the timeline is right. A lot of stuff, people getting pardoned, bills getting passed, lots of stuff, people getting let go of stuff. Things are being forgiven. I don't think the student loans will all get forgiven, and that was promised. So unfortunately for all of you that were paid for by that promise, let me buy your vote. I'll just forgive all your student debt. Pretty sure time's running out on that. I digress. But yeah, the CEO of UHC is dead. Here's the other thing that bothers me is like the amount of things that I'm seeing. Like, there was that, did you see the construction sign? I want to say it was in Washington that said like one CEO down, many more to go, kind of thing, where people are like sort of celebrating this, and parts of social media is like really getting off on this.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Half my Facebook and Instagram pages are full of people who are cheering because of this.
I've got a bone to pick with privatized medicine a little bit.
Yeah.
From a personal perspective. And like, you know, for those of you that aren't super familiar with me personally, and it's probably something I'm not going to like outline in its entirety, but I've lost a son and a mom.
I'm glad you're talking about this, because that's the perspective I wanted to hear, as somebody who has been personally affected by the piss poor healthcare system that we do have. No one's debating that, but I mean, we still have the best healthcare most likely in the world. However, at what cost, and who's getting denied for what reasons, for insurance purposes. You know, like that can't, I mean, we're still head and shoulders above Canada, but that doesn't mean that our healthcare system is anywhere near perfect. It is an atrocity when it comes to cost. It'll cripple a family or worse. And I'm glad you're kind of diving into this, because you have some personal experiences with the darker side of the healthcare system in the United States. Yeah,
like if anyone would have an axe to grind in certain situations, like, you know, loss of a loved one, it would likely, you could count me among those people. You know, I, at one point with the continuation of coverage for waiting for my mom to get a liver transplant, I mean, just to paint it into perspective, and this was a few years ago now, but this procedure alone would have been $1.2 million just to have the procedure done. That's just out of pocket. And then you've got to factor that there was an ambulance ride all the way across the state There was several weeks overnight stays in an intensive care unit. Plus, this is a human that would have had to take anti-rejection medication for the rest of her life if the transplant was successful, right? And so, long story short, didn't get a compatible liver in time, and mom didn't make it. But that was a price we would have paid unequivocally and without hesitation. And there was no way that we would have been able to recover from that. I mean, at all. I think we were south of $3 million in total, just in costs up to that point. That's brutal, you know. And again, when I lost my son in intensive care, like similar situation, but I didn't have insurance at that point. So it was by the grace of a few folks with their charitable support in that situation that I was able to kind of overcome the bill on that front. But what killed me about it the most, especially in mom's situation, was this was right when HR 3200 was about to become Obamacare. And so all the pre-existing medical coverage or conditions would not have been covered. She would not have been a coverage eligible candidate for a liver transplant, even had we gone the subsidized route. So there really was no winning in that situation, whether it was purchased and paying for privatized healthcare at that point or turning to the government and the amazing Obamacare that was coming down the pipeline. We were told to get fucked in no uncertain terms when it came to that. And so that was a very difficult pill to swallow once I had the ability to get through the grieving period and actually think about the logistics of that situation. Yet and still, I don't think I would have taken up arms against the executive branch of the or the executive officers of each of the branches of the private medical institutions and shot and killed somebody for it. Like,
you wouldn't have murdered a man in cold blood for the sake of, for the evil. Like, yeah,
I wouldn't have then, and I wouldn't now, and I wouldn't have then.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Like, so to say that somebody isn't capable of that, no, people are capable of that. You know, we covered briefly, but if you listen back to some of our episodes, we covered a girl from a prestigious institution in Washington, the University of Washington, highly educated girl, supporting the pro-Palestine riots and rallies recently, and decided to fly over to Israel herself and make a difference, and got shot and killed by Iranians instantly. So, like, yeah, people will die for a cause that they misleadingly believe in, especially younger people, because I don't know where the internet culture versus real life seems to not be quite evident time after time after time with these examples, yet they still do it. But no, like, nothing justifies murdering a dude in cold blood because some tragedies befallen you. Like, at some point, whether you believe in, divine intervention or not, the circumstances are not a direct result of one individual. It's the system at large. Even the guy that, like, if you want to pick an individual, even the guy that, like, was raising the prices to obscene levels on I think it was the HIV medication, right? Remember that guy, the real smarmy dude that went into Congress for a long time? I don't remember his name, but, like,
yeah,
I'm sure plenty of people wanted to take shots at that guy and stuff too, but I don't think these are the same story. Like, I don't think this is somebody who had not enough support from the medical institution. Is it possible? Yeah, I'll give you that. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. Is it likely? I don't know. And I mean, and I was going through some shit back then, but even then, like, there was no help coming from the non-privatized healthcare sector too. That's why I'm sharing this information. We would have been just as fucked, if not harder, had we turned it over to the federal government's idea of what healthcare coverage should look like for people that didn't have privatized healthcare or enough money to cover procedures like that. So don't kid yourselves into thinking that the Republican Party or the Democrat Party would have swooped in and saved the day had they just had more time to put together a healthcare plan. No, that's not reality. It never was. It wasn't in either of those cases, and those happened a few years apart. So I'm living proof in that if I took a left on that highway, I would have been fucked. If I took a right on that highway, I would have been fucked. There really was no winning in that situation, And I've reconciled with it over the years, I've come to, but I still don't even if it was the same CEO back then running the same insurance company that would have charged us that much money, like I still wouldn't, his name wouldn't have even crossed my mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like those folks are so fucking far removed from how the system operates in this country. There's a lot more root of the problem things that we can kind of unearth and weed out. Not the least of which is how hard, and this is a tangent I didn't expect to go on, but not the least of which is how hard U.S. citizens have become dependent on pharmaceutical companies and the healthcare system at large for their daily lives anyway. Everybody's on fucking scripts, man. Everybody.
Yeah.
And it's bananas to think that like this was not the case in the 80s and the 90s, dude, which was not that long ago. Like, I mean,
but regardless of all that, though, it wasn't Brian Thomas's fault.
It's not his fault. None of
it's
it.
Not his fault.
It wasn't back then. It wasn't
He didn't
today.
create the system. You know, he didn't create the system. He didn't ramp up the system. He's a CEO. Like the guy is literally just a bean counter at the very top. And on top of that, like you may not like him. You may not like, you know, the fact that he's a CEO of that company. But what you didn't take into account is that he was married and that he had kids and that now their kids have no father because you climbed up a weird ladder and took out somebody that was completely disconnected from the perceived evils of what you are, you know, creating a revolution about. So all of these people were building signs and making memes and all of this stuff.
It's aberrant behavior. It's aberrant
behavior.
on
you. Yeah.
Like
I don't care if people make a lot of money. That, in fact, that used to be the American dream. The American dream used to be, hey, look at that guy. I want to be like him. That guy actually worked, and even if he didn't work, I don't care. But somehow he managed to get into the position he's in. Most of the time it's hard work. Almost every time it's hard work. Nowadays it's a little different, but at the time when growing up, that it was like, that was what you aspired to be. Like,
and for those of us that are in that rat race, you know, like you can be a little excluded from this based on you're working for yourself, you know, but like none of us that are trying to chase that American dream, or at least the portrait of what it was when I was young and looking up to it. None of us wake up and pop out of bed every morning and breathe deeply and be like, I exist to chase the dream of one day increasing holistic shareholder value. So like, it can be a little disgruntling to recognize where you're at in the rat race or in the place of chasing the American dream. Nevertheless, even from that perspective, still not enough to cap the CEO of UHC in the back of the head. Like,
doesn't know anything about healthcare.
Correct.
Brian Thompson has no connection to healthcare.
Yeah.
Brian Thompson is literally a guy that they hired to manage the company properly. He is doing business deals. He is making sure that all of the checks are signed. He is the guy that is keeping the business afloat, making decisions within boardrooms. He's not a guy who's like setting the prices of pharmaceuticals or surgeries.
The pharma reps and the benchmarkers and the trendsetters that's where the problem lies. The fact that Americans are so dependent on the healthcare system for mostly in the prescription area, but in other areas as well. That is another root of the same type of problem. Not the guy they hired to increase shareholder value for a company. So
now have you seen that they're putting up signs all over New York, like little on the, you know how in Seattle all over the telephone poles they have like the signs for bands and stuff all over the place, and they're just they're putting those all over New York for wanted signs with different like healthcare CEO wanted signs all over. They're putting like, this is
the degradation of American society. Like there's no fucking excuse for that.
Like you're putting headhunting on these guys. Like you're headhunting these guys.
Even the fact that you're memeing it or celebrating it is pretty aberrant behavior, I think.
Yeah. I think anybody who does that, shame on you. And I will not apologize for thinking that you're cultivating, if not participating, in disgusting behavior and
Yeah.
are culpable. If anybody else, any of these other CEOs, regardless of their character, regardless of who they are, if any of them else get shot, it's because you guys memed them into death.
Yep.
And I think anyone who is participating in that should take a pause, think about it, and stop doing that behavior.
Get away
because
from
it's
the
gross.
keyboard. Get away from the keyboard. So, I've got to turn the pod over to you to drive a little bit on these topics. You have a local suicide topic that popped up, which is not real Christmassy, at least not on the face of it. But I wanted to hear, because I think you're close to this one. And
I am.
So what's going on?
So last week I was scrolling through Facebook, and there are certain tattoo friends that, even living in the same town, we never really see each other, but we maintain friendship through social media. And if we run into each other at the grocery store, we're like, "Hey, what's up? Haven't seen you in a while," And one of those people is a dear friend of mine, Joey Havold, who has been a friend of mine in the area for the better, over a decade, and he apprenticed under another friend of mine, and he's in his mid to late 30s. Nice guy, real quiet but sharp, and he's never worked for me, but there was a time frame when we had discussed him coming to work for me years ago when I first opened up the Dodger here. So we're fairly close, good dude. And Joey had a child, and I don't really know, and I don't think it really matters. I know he was a single dad. And he had a boy, Braxton, that was his whole world, was his entire world. Outside, it was Braxton and then tattooing. He didn't really do anything else. I think he had a girlfriend, recently, but he was, shared custody with the mother of Braxton, and anything that Joey ever posted was either tattooing or Braxton. And it was Braxton, and it was a bright kid with like great personality, and like just you could tell this kid was loved and adored. And as I was scrolling through Facebook the other day, there was a post that was very suggestive, to the point of saying that Braxton was no longer alive, was no longer with us. And I was like, what happened? Because it was just kind of Facebook tragedy meltdown kind of, and people saying, I'm sorry, in the comments. And I didn't want to be the guy to go, oh, what happened? But we ended up finding out, and it became kind of a local story because a lot of the families in the Post Falls area knew him, and there was a lot of support that ended up building up behind this. But Braxton, at the age of 12, took his own life at 12 years of age. And I don't know if he wrote a note, but I would imagine he did, due to the fact that they know that the motive behind it was bullying. So there was bullying, a heavy amount of bullying going on. And this can hit home for me on a couple of different ways. One, just due to the local friend nature of this, but also for the fact that in part of our community, but also for the fact that I have two kids. But the first funeral I ever went to when I was 8 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, was our babysitter, and our babysitter, Eric Cooper. And it was the first funeral I ever went to. And at 13 years of age, he took his own life. And he took his own life because of bullying. He was a young, like, good-looking, tall kid. You would have thought he was like 17 or 18. Parents were still together. He had a younger sister, Stacy.
Whole world in front of him kind of guy.
Right. And he got into a friend group, and the friend group, he had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend broke up with him in front of the group of friends, and they all started making fun of him. And he said something to the effect of, "I'm going to go home and unalive myself."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, and she probably wears this on her heart and on her soul to this day. But at 13 years old, she said, "You're not man enough." And he went home and found his dad's service revolver,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the first funeral I ever went to, was a 13-year-old boy's. And this hit me so hard, and the whole shop, honestly. Hold on. But what it did is, not only did it hit us really hard, but it made me really think, like, what, how is the culture, because I mean, this isn't new, but I find that it's becoming more and more prevalent that people are finding less and less um hope at younger ages. Like, there's nothing left in this world for me at
Right.
12, you know. And is this the way it's going to be forever, this bullying thing? And now, do I think that bullying to a degree has merits? It did for me, you know, but not every child can handle it in that particular way. The open communication between Joey and his son was obvious,
Mm-hmm.
so he had outlets there. Um, but what is so prevalent within our society that a young man of that age would go to that extreme to end what to an adult man seems like such temporary pain?
Mm-hmm.
um and for it to be okay. Is there an online culture that's kind of cultivating this kind of stuff? Is it um the fact, or is the online culture the safe space for this kid, where the reality was where he didn't want to be because he wasn't fitting in, or wasn't accepted within his peer group in the real world at school, or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
But what pressures are on a child of 12 that would lead him to this? And are we going to start seeing more of this due to the fact that we have a culture that now says, you know, climate change is everything, and you're going to die no matter what. You'll never own a house. You'll never be you know, there's so many social aspects that kind of are just crushing. And I mean, for
Yeah,
millennials
but
and
those
for
those shouldn't be realized by a 12-year-old child. Like
right,
those should start hitting home in your 20s. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. But
yeah,
what pressures at 12,
right.
man? I mean, it's just heartbreaking. Like, I obviously, as a dad, I put myself into Joey's shoes as
Mm-hmm.
best I could, as best as I could, and there's no way to ever, much like, you know, they say you don't know what it's like to have kids until you have kids. You don't know what it's like to lose a kid until you lose a kid, and I
Mm-hmm.
will never, ever, ever know that, and hopefully, I will never, never know that. But
Yep.
you know,
Yeah, your
I
your world gets turned upside down several times, you know.
yeah,
And there's really no right way to get through that. You know, when I've hit some lows, like I'll be transparent. Like I've hit some dark lows in my life. You know, Mike died a month before I turned 13 years old, you know. Like that's savage, you know, to have to go through, and then the whole extenuating circumstances around that and all the shit that happened. But even still, like I had people, you know,
yeah,
like my friend who I reference a lot, Dan Reyes, like his whole family took me in because I just couldn't stomach being in that environment anymore where he died, you know, for months. Just
yeah,
no reason to do that. They just did those things. And that was so I had, even when the walls were closing in at that age, I still had people that, I could be around and stuff. And I can't imagine, I can't fathom, like, certainly everything we could speculate is just that.
Yeah.
Is it the online culture? Was it the kids at school? Is it everything? Why couldn't you talk to your dad about it? Was there more going on there than just that? There's a spiritual element to a lot of that stuff for some folks. So, but it's hard to talk about because it almost feels like you're dissecting it, and you know what I mean. And that's wouldn't be my intention in a conversation like this, other than to at least illuminate to other people this stuff.
It's just something that's been weighing on my heart for the last couple weeks, and it was just something I felt compelled to talk about because it is. If there is an answer, that's where my heart is to find an answer to make something of an experience that we're, kids of that age, or anybody, even into their early 20s, that's feeling that way, especially this time of year. It happens more around the holidays, but especially this time of year that there are people out there.
There are.
That there are people out there. There is support. There is happiness on the other side of what you're feeling right now. And
100%. And if there's no outlet, or you perceive there's no outlet, you can write this podcast. I don't give a shit. Send us an email.
Yeah.
Like, we'll put you in touch with somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's really all I had on that. I just want to kind of explore the idea and then talk about poor Braxton and poor Joey, and
my heart definitely goes out to him. It's a position he does have nobody wants to be in, and I've been there.
Yeah, he has a GoFundMe right now to help him out, and it's actually done fairly well. The community's really reached out and helped him, but if anybody is inclined, you can go to. I'll put it
out on our socials or something.
Yeah, for sure, because he's got to GoFundMe to kind of to help him bury his boy, and then give him some freedom of time off to grieve. So as a tattooer, it's, if you're not tattooing, you're not paying bills. So and there's no security blanket. There's no security net for any tragedies in your life. So, but people have been very generous. So, but yeah, just thought I would
look forward to that. We'll put something out on socials for him for sure. So we have our favorite Canadian hopped into chat to say good evening and welcome, Prunes. It brings me to a good discussion topic, kind of in short order. I just watched right before joining the show today that Canadians everywhere should be worried because Canada's own Dr. Jordan Peterson is moving to America.
Oh, they're going to lose their best asset?
Apparently he's joining Team USA. So he's given up on the maple leaf, I guess, and he's sick of the College of Psychologists up there and the horse shit that's gone on there. So apparently he's moving down to the good old US of A. And I don't know why, I don't know where, and I don't know when, but Michaela put something out, and then I think it was like a shared repost on Instagram. Because as we were talking, it popped up on my feed, so I watched it for like a minute where he was kind of describing, like, I mean, kind of unintentional, but that's sort of what happened. And like, it's just, it's easier here. So we're just going to do that now. Okay.
For the time being, until we annex Canada.
Yeah. Sorry, Prunes. He says, oh, snap. #USA. No. I often wonder, dude, if Canadians look down at the United States and be like, well, that's my meth head neighbors downstairs. But then if you look at the political structure and stuff up there, you're like, well, is it that bad though? Is it that bad? I mean,
Yeah.
Saint Trudeau has
Did you
never
see?
done anything wrong. I would hate to
Did
uh,
you see
tarnish
the
his name and
numbers
shit, but
that came out for the the percentages of deaths overall within Canada that are assisted suicide
no, I
deaths?
didn't. Are they up there with
Oh,
Japan now? Are they like a world leader
oh,
in
they're
that metric?
yeah, they're a world leader in that metric now. It's like an enormous percentage of their deaths are now.
I'm not
Uh,
laughing at that. I'm laughing at what Prunes put in chat and then immediately deleted. Uh,
what did he say?
something to the effect of did we hear that Orange and Bad declared himself Canada's Trudeau the governor of Canada if we extend them statehood? Something to
Yeah,
that effect. Yes, I did.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I would welcome that because then you could visit and you wouldn't need a passport required. I don't think anyway. That would be fun. But yeah, I think all the libs on our side of the line are fleeing to Canada left and right. They're saying that's the border they're going to jump. So I used retyping. Fair enough. Yeah, I did hear that. I don't know how much credence I can put into the conversations that show up on the news that I wasn't a part of these days, but that does sound like something Orange and Bad would say.
He
and,
did.
And I love
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's fucking hilarious. Like how emasculating to say to the prime minister of a country, like, why don't you just join our team and we'll make you a kick-ass duke or something? Like, you could be the governor of whatever the fuck you got going on up there, but like,
He
join
may
the
not
winning
even be-
team, guy. Like, that's got to be savage to say to somebody to their fucking face, but like, let's go. That's hilarious.
Well, Prunes might be able to confirm this too, but like from what I understand, Trudeau's not like he may have to resign. It's actually there's a lot of news going on right now where his like top right hand man and everybody are all dropping like
Couple
flies.
cabinet members quit today. I read that. Like, yeah, and you can confirm that in chat if you see it there, Prunes, or you have a deeper understanding. He and I were talking off net a little bit, and what I didn't know, and I'm probably going to fuck this up. So if you're a Canadian listener, I apologize. I do not know the infrastructure of your politics as well, but I understand you can call forth as the Prime Minister of Canada. You can call forth an election even if it's earlier than your scheduled. Your time is running out time. And there was a few moves where there was going to be some money presented to Canadian citizens for some sort of thing. I don't know if it was healthcare related or if it was just a perk or some stimulus package or some shit. But like suddenly that would go out and then immediately he would call for a re-election, like at the federal level, earlier than slated time to maybe buy forward another 4 years of his dictatorship, so to speak, which I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could just call an emergency election right then and right there. And if you're still the leading majority, it resets your 4-year schedule. But apparently that's the case. And I may be misled on that, but that's what I understand. So, or not misled, but like misinterpreting like a few of the key factoids on that process. Apologies. I don't know Canadian politics that well, but he says, LMO, yes, this. So, yeah, like, there you go. He's either resigning, his cabinet's leaving and dropping like flies, to your point, Lucky,
Right.
but like either that or let's just wash our hands and try again for another 4 years. Like that seems like
Prunes,
insane to me.
what is your take on Poliver, and do you think that he has a chance to win?
Pierre Poliev?
Yeah.
That's right? Pierre Poliev?
Yeah,
Poliev?
that's the dude.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy. Like, what is your take on him? And is that guy? What is his chances of kind of getting some?
He seems to be the most commercially acceptable opposition leader up there from at least the media that I've seen so far. I like what he has to say, but I think there's puts and takes on short-term financial woes versus long-term goods from the way that he's kind of orchestrating the attack pattern against the Trudeau administration. Is like a lot of people can't afford how hard it would hurt them if they elected this guy and they made the cut it off early and then just rebuild from there kind of thing. If you have time to describe that in chat, Prunes, I'll relay it. He says though, 100% period. Early election, comma, restart your 4 years. So that's apparently what you can do up there. So I don't know if you're catching chat, Lucky. Let me preface this by saying
No.
I'm not a very politically minded person. Fair. Here's the common sense conservative is very charismatic. Here,
All right.
the common sense conservative is very charismatic. Yeah. Yeah. As far as like how the immediate federal policies that would be implemented by him, I can see from a strategic perspective how that would be drastically different than what Trudeau's been rolling out. In long term, affect equals thumbs up. From my mostly conservative point of view. But the immediate ouch, this hurts the pocketbook by doing that. I don't know what that effect is, but I understand that's where the most of his opposition is like, we can't afford this shit. What I do know is like the prices of like property, their interest and inflation and stuff, and common goods is like out of control, expensive, has been for the last few years up there. So, you know, something's got to give in Canada, which blows, but he continues. He's saying things that people want to hear, but if he gets in, my family life is affected because he will try to balance the budget by cutting funding and things probably that his family is using. So so that's what I thought. If you drop the hammer like that, it's going to affect folks that are leveraging some of these subsidies or programs or perks or whatever that have been implemented by Trudeau. But I don't think anyone's a big fan of Justin Trudeau at large. Like, because he keeps clowning on stuff that's just absolutely bananas. In fact, not to make this podcast about beating on Canada, but I'll dig up the dead horse and beat on it for a little bit. Didn't they just ban and outlaw all the rest of the guns? All of them? Like for Canada? Like within the last month or two?
Certain.
It was just like, now everything's off limits. Like nobody gets to have a gun at all. We just don't even like them. Pretend they don't exist. So like if you use that to hunt and you're in the way out in the sticks, like in the northern parts of the provinces of Canada, I imagine that hurts because that's probably how you defend yourself from like polar bears, and it's probably how you feed yourself if you go hunting for elk and antelope and reindeer and whatever abominable snowmen you guys got up there. I don't even know. So quick note from the Prunes says
Yeti country.
Yeah, it's Yeti country out there. I don't know what's going on. He says, so feds are giving every working age Canadian $250 to help with inflation, cost of living, etc. before he's expected to quit or restart or call forth an early election and restart the cycle. So sounds to me almost like a similar propaganda stream of being like, hey man, we'll forgive all your student loans, baby. Yeah. Right before an election cycle. No reason. No, it's just coincidence. I don't know what's going on, but we're just going to make them all go away, dude. And don't you love us now? And, you know, same way we'll fix national debt. Magic, you know, and then it just doesn't happen. And, you know, so politics is a weird game, dude. Politics is a really weird game.
I wonder how many Canadians are going to be able to be bought by $250.
$250 doesn't, that's loonies, right? 250 loonies. I don't know how far that gets you up there.
I don't think they do the loonies anymore. I think that's
really,
that's,
I know they're mostly cashless as far as like most of the transactive, because I study these things over at Redacted, is like how much in types of commerce are conducted, at least with my business's influence on that side of the border. Yeah. And it's like high 96 maybe percent of all transactions are done on a card. Like there isn't much cash going around up there these days, but if they did do away with loonies and toonies, that's a bummer because that's just a fun couple of words to say. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think $250 a person is going to help out. It says, oh, by the way, we're in a 2-month sales tax break right now. Canceled the sales tax on most things for 2 months to help people at the holidays before giving them $250 a head. This sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a bribe.
Sounds like a bribe, yeah. Loonies and toonies are still around. Pennies are gone. That's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair. So some wild shit going on north of the border, bro. But you guys are losing Peterson, apparently. He's coming. He's joining the red, white, and blue, apparently.
He's not taking that $250. He's coming down here.
Yeah, I should say not. Well, R.I.P. the Canadian penny. Your oddly shaped hexagonal or octagonal shape served you well for a long time. So you have some stuff. You got some, I don't know if it's a bone to pick or just an observation or whatever about Santa Claus, but that's the last thing on the agenda this week.
Not necessarily a bone to pick. No, I'm as a holiday shopper
Yeah,
in the North Idaho region, which demographically is not a secret that we are a little slim in the margins. We don't
sure.
have a lot of
Real
uh,
quick,
yeah.
you Americans have our best exports. All the Ryans, Nathan Fillion, and now Peterson.
That is true. That is
All
true.
the
Sorry.
Ryans. But we
Sorry.
also, I mean, you unleashed Bieber on us too, so that's kind of a puts and takes there situation, my friend.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on. Sorry,
Um,
it was too funny. Nathan Fillion and now Peterson.
um, I have found this weird phenomenon that's happened the last couple of holiday seasons.
Yeah.
And it is an odd thing, and I am just curious. I'm scratching my head about what retailers are, what the push is,
Mm.
or why they would do. I would expect. We're talking Black Santa, okay?
Okay.
Black Santa has become a phenomenon. Like, and I don't have a problem with Black Santa,
Yeah.
except for that, like,
Well, he's not real, so sorry, kids.
right.
Spoiler alert.
I'm just talking from a sales perspective.
Yeah.
Like, why are you pitching an enormous amount of Black Santa at the Michaels or the Joann's or the Target or wherever in North Idaho? And I've noticed this regionally. Like, sure, I get it in, areas of population where there's a heavy density population of African Americans, but like, we don't have that many. So, like,
I don't know,
what are
because
you?
I've noticed like the especially like the Catholic culture stuff, like with the Jesus figurines and the Virgin Mary stuff, which is
Yeah,
very Latin area,
right.
right? Or Hispanic area, but like Korean Jesus is making a comeback. Have you seen Korean Jesus?
Oh yeah, he's
He's
ripped like.
everywhere this year, dude. With the 8-pack,
Yeah.
dude, he's ripped.
Yeah,
He's got more
yeah.
muscles than I do. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, maybe do you think it's like how like that's
Yeah, like
what Big Lots, how
Las
they
Ve-
just get like a bunch of lot stuff from certain distributors? Does
but
Michaels
I
do
don't
the
think
same thing?
I don't think so. I think that they
Interesting.
have regional hubs, right, where
Yeah.
they go, okay, and somebody is directing, product to those regional hubs and going, okay,
Yeah.
we need to sell a lot of stuff because the point is to sell all this holiday stuff as much as you can, as quick as you can.
Well, you'd think so,
And
yeah.
so now, like I went into Michael's yesterday to get some more
Mhm.
art supplies, and I'm looking around and I'm like, like 2/3 of the G or the Santas in here
Mhm.
are black.
Did you get one?
And no, but we did.
You should.
Well,
I
we do
want one
have
now.
one. Well, we do
Nice.
have one, and it was due to the fact that Kate, wanted to like I've always wanted one of those Christmas trains to go around the tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we got one of those Christmas trains to go
Yeah.
around the tree. But the only one that we could get was one with a Black Santa in it.
Let's go.
And so we have Black Santa circling the tree.
I kind of
My
love
dog-
this, dude. Like, I want to get a Korean Jesus. I want to get a Black Santa. I want to find
But
like
my dog hates this thing, and we don't know if it's because he's racist or he just hates trains.
your dog may be
and so-
racist. Hot take.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Not sure
"Arthur,
it's
knock it
that
off."
because he also eats water bottles, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He's just retarded.
No, I mean, interesting observation. Like, I've noticed totally different geography, right? But like, I've noticed the Korean Jesus has been exploding in popularity. Like, dude, I want to get one. I don't think he's like Tickle Me Elmo popular yet, like the way that was back in the day and shit.
right.
But like, I gotta get one. Like, so now, like, what if you stack like all of the races under the sun, like seek these out, go to like, the Wajimaya stores and the Mexican tortilla stores and like everywhere you can get all the Santa Clauses and all the Jesuses from around the world and just strategically lay them out in your Christmas decorations. Just like, don't even tell the wife, like just put them places and stuff everywhere. That'd be fantastic. Like, you should just go
set up
around the world.
The Santas by skin tone, so it looks like like the burnt cookies from one end to the other. But but like I
Like,
just
we don't see
understand.
color in this house. Observe.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just don't understand it from a business perspective.
I mean,
Like, it
well,
just
your
doesn't
area
make.
has a bit of a history with, uh, racial
Yeah,
insensitivity, we'll say. So yeah,
yeah,
that is kind of a striking marketing move, I suppose, if it's with
yeah, and they
intent,
just
for
sit
sure.
there.
Yeah.
You can tell that they're the ones that are left over, and they just sit there and they just have to sit on this product because there isn't really a market for it.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, sure, Vegas or, LA or
Yeah.
Seattle or Atlanta or any of those places, these things are probably selling in equal
Hmm.
components. Now, on a on a historical level, this fictional character obviously was not anything
Right.
remotely close to this.
Yeah.
But I'm not so much worried about that. I'm more like going, why is the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho Michaels completely chock full of black
So is
Santa?
it
It
other
doesn't make any
stores or
sense.
is it just them?
Well, it just happens to be that I was
That's
there,
the
but
example you're
like,
using, but you've seen these around everywhere, kind of
yeah,
thing. Oh,
all
okay,
over.
gotcha,
Like,
gotcha.
yeah, you go to Walmart, you go to Target, you go to like Joann's or anything like that.
Hmm.
They seem to be kind of force feeding Black Santa to
That's
this super white
yeah,
like
that's a weird
area.
market to try and force. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like
I
they just sit there because like nobody's buying them, and so
I'd love to.
they
I
end
mean,
up
if
going
it's
to the
with intent, I
70.
would love to know what that is. If they're just
Right?
lots that were like, I don't know, these made it to the inland northwest somehow. Let's see how
Yeah,
they
oops.
do and shit.
And I would say that that was the case like 3 years ago when I started noticing it, but it's the
Mhm.
same every
Oh,
year.
this is great,
So
dude. You should buy into it. Like, you should
I don't know. Yeah. So
get
I'm
them
just like,
all,
because
collect them all.
3 years ago when I saw it, I was like, this has got to be a mistake. They must have gotten like
Right.
somebody else's shipment.
That's
And
hilarious.
but no, every year I'm like, oh no, it is now a thing where they just half their inventory is Black Santa.
That's funny.
Yeah.
The Rio de Janeiro statue of Jesus where he's like this, like
Yeah.
looking over the city. So I was trying to figure out where I could put some yard decorations in my front yard because I need shade, especially over this window that is behind the camera because it gets hot and the sun sets on this side, right? And like really hot. So I'm like, boy, if I could put a tree there, I could, I'd get some afternoon shade, maybe would tone the temperature down a little bit. Unfortunately, the main water line is right underground. We don't have a frost line we have to dig deep for obvious reasons. So I can't put a tree there because the roots are going to knock out the water main over time. So it's like, what if I could put a statue? Because I don't have a fees and I don't have any city rights and regulations that I'd be fighting against. Maybe because I looked into them. Like I could put a 20, 30-foot tall concrete statue of Rio de Janeiro Jesus, but I would want him modeled after Korean Jesus where he's super buff. But like point him
Yeah.
directly at my neighbor's house where he's constantly looking at like I would get the shade, but then I would have this like so could you imagine driving down the neighborhood and just be like, is that is that a 40-foot tall Jesus? It sure looks like
Yeah. Yeah, that is. Oh man, that'd be great.
chat. Okay, so chat says, how's Christmas looking in the desert? So it is weird. It is different. Like I don't know if I've really expounded on this too much, but Christmas down here is kind of like I call it it's an obligation by some. Like the decorations are great. It's usual Christmas lights and blow up Santas and music and people are casting laser lights on their. I mean, they really get after it down here, but it doesn't feel the same. Like it is brisk. It drops into the 30s down here. The 30s and 40 degrees. I don't know what that is in Canadian, but it gets chilly, but there's no snow and stuff. But some of the fun things that I found that you could do, like one example is this all proceeds go to charity foundation thing sets up in this big parking lot in Inspirata. And if you drive way out there, you can pay like $20 and anyone that's in your car is eligible for a ticket. Basically it's per car, right? So you drive back and forth through this parking lot and you're surrounded by all this cool light show stuff, but you're encouraged to turn your FM radio station to a specific station And as you're driving through, the Christmas carols and songs and stuff are synchronized with the light show as you go through. So it's on a loop on this shortwave FM radio station they broadcast. Super fun, like way cool Christmas atmosphere. And it's all one way. So you get through and then you're out and you're done. So like they do have some stuff, but it doesn't feel the same because you're not like crunching around in the snow, and it's, yeah, you're likely to not get a snow covered Christmas, but the valley anyway, the fishbowl around it, you'll see snow on top of the mountains and stuff on the ridge lines around. So it's kind of the same, but very different, but kind of the same. So yeah, it's an interesting experience because you blink your eyes and you miss it, man. Like once you're not in the heat of the summer and stuff, like the nice weather kind of goes by quick. So it is different. Yeah, 32 equals 0. Yeah, so it's cold. It's cold. I mean, it has dropped below freezing here, the 32 mark, but not that often. So it's very rare that it snows here or freezes. That is funny though. Like I wonder if they're going to have other cultural like Christmas decorations. They're just going to start piping into your area and just kind of see how it sells. But that's, I say collect them all. That'd be funny, especially hide them around your house if you can. You get an opportunity to buy these little trinkets, hang them all up on the tree. There's just
Well, I've already started with train conductor Black Santa, so we're already well on our way.
Let's go. So you had some movies to talk about. I had a movie to talk about. Not much of a review to it, but
I do.
Go for it. Carry on, as it were.
It is actually kind of a Christmas movie. So it is the new Netflix exclusive movie that came out last week, and it has made some the people have been having comparisons to this generation's Die Hard, and it's called Carry On.
Yeah,
and it stars Taron Egerton, who you might know from like The Kingsman, and he was in a Robin Hood movie, and really,
I like that guy.
I did too. I really enjoy him. I think he's got a good presence about him. I think he's got a good charm and a wit to him. And then he's side by side with Jason Bateman, who I've been a fan of since Teen Wolf 2, but also his time in Arrested Development and Ozark and all of the other things that I've been anything he touches, I'm pretty much gonna jump on. But it's set at the holiday season, like right at Christmas, because everyone's traveling through LAX, and he is a TSA agent, and Taryn is a TSA agent, and his girlfriend, who they just found out that she is pregnant, is a manager at one of the airlines, and they both work at the same airport. And he is kind of going through a bit of a crisis because he's trying to figure out his way, and now he's got a kid coming, and needs to take on responsibility. He's just been kind of floating as like a background character at TSA, not really looking for advancement or anything. Well, because of this, he decides to take on a new role, checking bags. The bags that go through the machines, right? And through this, you're also seeing a subplot of people getting killed for a suitcase, and the suitcase being taken, and there's a group of dudes that are, one's in a van with a tied up guy, and there's another guy on a radio, and you don't know what's actually going on. Well, because he switched out his buddy with, his buddy gave him his spot to kind of try to earn him some stripes. He is in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sure. And what ends up happening is he ends up putting in this earpiece after being prompted, and the earpiece is Jason Bateman, who's orchestrating, hey, I've got a guy coming through here. You're just going to let him pass, or I'm going to kill your girlfriend. I know she's pregnant. We know everything about what's going on in your life. We know where your parents live, da-da-da-da-da. And you're just going to do what we tell you, and just everything will be fine. And it turns out it is a very bad suitcase
Mm-hmm.
that is going to be taking out 200 plus people on an airplane.
Sure.
But if he doesn't do it, is trying to find a way to save his girlfriend, save 250 plus people on a plane, or the 5 to 10,000 that are in the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Because this thing going off will be a big problem in any of those cases. And so he's trying to outsmart Jason Bateman and trying to get, from point A to point B and trying to maneuver around him. And there's a lot of action. There's a lot of witty dialogue. Jason Bateman once again pulls out Jason Bateman worthy performance of that, just the driest of dry humor, the driest of dry kind of reactionary. And he plays a really good villain. He always has. And so, but I think it has the energy of Die Hard, but just a little smarter than Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and there's some other subplots that are going on around it too. But I think it was really enjoyable.
Nice.
I think you would like it particularly. I think it's something that you would really enjoy because it's smart, but also action packed and like kind of a figure out how to get.
Yeah, there's got to be ninjas or explosions or spy stuff or smart things somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that being said, I think I would give it probably 8 megs.
8
because
megs.
It was that. Yeah, it kept me engaged the entire time, and it was. I think it's going to be a probably repeat holiday movie, much like
nice
Die Hard, in that tradition where people will argue whether or not it's a holiday movie or not, whether or not it's a Christmas movie like they do with Die Hard. So, but I'd be curious to have you watch it and see what.
I'll check it out.
What you thought of it?
I'll check it out.
So
I have been trying to revisit classic movies that I just didn't get around to seeing or didn't watch all the way through. And I've watched a few recently to mixed reviews. Like I watched the original Blade Runner. I'd only seen bits and pieces of that. I loved it. It was amazing. And it filled in a lot of the gaps from Blade Runner 2049. I watched Interview with a Vampire, mostly positive on that because the acting in it was pretty cool. Even though the subject matter was not as exciting, like as Vampire the Masquerade type of lore.
Right.
So like whatever, it's an Anne Rice book, but I mean, Tom Cruise kind of brought it in that movie, and I was like, this is actually pretty entertaining and fun. And then I watched Legends of the Fall, and that movie sucks, dude. Like, I was expecting, it's like supposed to be one of the Americana classic films. Like Anthony Hopkins was awesome in it, as you'd expect. He's still commanding presence on the screen. Brad Pitt did a pretty good job overall, but the plot line was so thin, dude. It was just brutal to watch. Everyone just wants to get married to Brad Pitt in this movie, and there's this girl that has no real personality to her at all, and she kind of overacts in every scene, and she only hops through most of the family, and like there's tragedy in it a whole bunch of times. It doesn't resolve well at all. The big, family connection scene at the end fell flat. I was like, this sucks, dude. Like this movie does not hold up. Sorry if you like Legends of the Fall. I don't. I
would agree with you on this one. I watched it once.
Yeah.
Probably right after it came out, and I was like,
yeah.
And it literally, I never cared to watch it again. I just didn't care.
Yeah. I just never got to it. Finally did. Could have skipped it, to be honest. I'm give it 2.5 megs. I mean, I'll give it the 2 at the end because, like, Anthony Hopkins was good.
At least Anthony Hopkins, right?
Yeah, and he holds character really well even after the stroke and all that stuff. No spoilers. This movie came out 30 years ago. Some shit, like 1994, I think. So, yeah. Legends of the Fall, not for me. So I'll continue to hammer through some of the classic movies that I didn't get around to just to see if there's some that are outstanding. On that vein, I did throw on No Country for Old Men. The story doesn't resolve well at all, but the act of telling a story from a couple of different perspectives. Kind of interesting from the Coens and all, but Javier Bardem was a boss in that movie. That was super fun to watch. I'm a little lukewarm on Josh Brolin here and there, but like
it was definitely a character-driven film.
definitely the ensemble. Like Woody Harrelson's character was cool, and like
the Coen brothers are like that. They'll either give you a complete story or they'll give you a character movie.
Right.
They don't really do both. Like it's really hard. Like there's certain Coen brothers movies that I absolutely love. And there's other Coen brothers movies that like they don't like. Burn After Reading was stupid.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
there was just they're so hit or miss for me because it seems like sometimes they take on stories that they don't know how they're going to end, and then they end them abruptly and they go, well, that was just the artistic way to do it.
Yeah, and it's almost like this ironic ending, like, oh, this is artsy and cool, kind of like how Wes Anderson treats all of his films, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's very overt. But I gained a whole lot of new respect for how badass Javier Bardem was in that movie. Like, even with how hard he had to struggle through the English language to learn it and stuff. But as it turns out, he married Penelope Cruz, so he's doing just fine. So
yeah, he'll be okay.
So yeah, Carry On, I'll check out. Legends of the Fall, I recommend. You could read the Cliff Notes. You don't need to see that movie, I think. Unless you're a big Brad Pitt fan, then you're going to love it. Dude, what do you think? Gen Z Gospel?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do it. Hopefully, I thought I turned the page on the last one. Yeah. This is new. Chapter 31, friends. This is, of course, the Gospel by Gen Z. Modern Relics podcast. Here we go. Chapter 31, Depart From Me. Someone asked Holy Bro, will many vibe with the divine G in his bussin' kingdom? Jesus answered, make sure you have the right number so you can get the address. Because not gonna lie, many will text him saying, bro, drop the addy. But will he receive the reply with new phone, who dis? And they will be stressing hard saying, bruh, we spilled the tea about you, even when people said, stop. We canceled people for you. We chilled with you every weekend for a whole hour. And for what? They will only see the reply. Bro, legit, I don't know you. This is Emma. So make sure you have the right number, for I promise you, you do not want to vibe with Emma. And that's Depart From Me. That's chapter 31. Don't know who Emma is or why that's a bad thing in Gen Z culture, but hey, there you go. The next one, Unjust Judge. That's going to be fun. We will not be back Christmas Eve. I'll be on the road.
No.
We'll probably do something New Year's Eve, at least for a little while. We'll figure something out. We'll get out there. But thanks for being patient with us. I felt like trash and then inadvertently mutilated myself last week. Lucky was feeling like trash. It was a brutal Tuesday. So I'm going to get some rest tonight. Hopefully you guys have a Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for hanging out. What do you got? Any final words of wisdom?
No, I just hope everybody travels safe. I know there's a lot of traveling going on. And if you're feeling down, reach out. There are people who actually care and are sincere. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is happiness after this phase of life. And just, keep your chin up. And everyone travel safe and have Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Agree to that.
So, yeah.
All right, friends. Well, Merry Christmas. And we will see you 2 weeks. Sounds like. We'll see you then.